programs that we still have that was inaugurated on our first Youth Candidates Night is Confronting Discrimination, and that is a monthly group where youth and adults sit together in a place where there is no difference in power, and they get an opportunity to talk about issues that affect them day to day in Fall River and in the world. So good things happen when you get a chance to hear youth. So we're going to start off today. We have a little opening from Summer, and we'll turn it over to you.
It's on. Oh. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the third Youth Candidates Forum. My name is Summer Slater. I'm a 16-year-old junior, and I attend BMC Durfee High School. I'm here tonight because I can look at my life and see that my involvement in community service, Citizens for Citizens family planning, Girl Scouts, field hockey, and volunteering has made a huge impact in my life. And it's also created an important community involvement in creating strong, courageous, thinking youth. I know the support I have received from caring adults such as my parents, Girl Scout leader, coaches, and even bosses helped me to see the right path to take to become a committed, educated citizen. It would have been easy with all the drugs, gangs, and violence youth encounter with day to day to lose sight of how to become a good, contributing individual. But thanks to my role models, I've learned and aspired to be better. The youth sitting here on the panel today would agree with me in saying that we are the future. We are going to be the ones in charge in just a few short years. Our stories, our struggles, and our successes can inform and motivate you all to realize that the future of Fall River lies within our hands, and you have the responsibility to make sure that our future is bright and we have every opportunity to succeed. You need to think about all the problems that we are preaching about today. These problems include drugs, violence, teen pregnancy, sexual assault, abuse, poverty, and poor education, just to name a few. You need to think long and hard about these problems. These should be the priority issues of all lawmakers. We have a voice that needs to be heard, but you have the power to make all of these changes that we need to ensure that all of Fall River youth have a chance to succeed. We are here tonight to challenge you to recognize that our issues are incredibly important, even if we are not yet voters. Our future lies within your hands. Keep us safe and keep us strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. And our first speaker will be Soleil.
Good evening. My name is Soleil, and I'm a sophomore at BMC Durfee High School. Fall River has been one of the most interesting and eventful places I've lived. I can't always say those events were positive, but it made me realize a lot. Standing before you guys, I can tell you I went through quite a journey to get to where I am, and I still don't feel complete because I have a lot to face as I'm only a sophomore. Being a girl from a Hispanic background, people had always concluded I was an immigrant. My mother came here in search of grasping a moment of happiness and dreams, but was left with a much worse result. With only my mother and I worked very hard in school in hopes of one day repaying and making my mom proud for all the sacrifice she gave me, giving up her doctorate and job in Costa Rica to provide a future for me here, which is what I wanted. I am in eternal gratitude for everything she has done for me. Personal struggle was always an issue for me. I went through a lot of trouble through my childhood, such as domestic abuse within my household, which I thankfully got to escape at an early age. Youth every day in our community face domestic abuse at home and are silenced by the powerful emotion of fear. I was lucky enough to not be one of those people, but this still remains a concerning issue today. Youth face various issues every day that we might not even imagine in our own thoughts, but we have to live it every single day. The main struggle I faced with wasn't domestic abuse, it was self-worth. As you live in a place in society where looks and self-imagery are predominant, it leaves not only me, but all youth in a place of self-consciousness. Personal struggle was always an issue. Envisioning my success became more difficult as my self-esteem started deteriorating. Every day I would look at myself and ask, have you really done everything to your fullest potential? What are you going to do with your life? It was very hard to see a positive side in what I did, as nothing became good enough for me no matter how hard I studied or for how long I stayed up all night finishing homework. That constant struggle of self-worth followed me everywhere, even in school, but no one really seemed to notice at the time. I would show up to school super tired and very off, distracted in classes with the thought of how productive I wanted to be and what my future would hold. The constant pressure of having to work 10 times as hard, only to never be satisfied, really set a negative mindset in my brain. At some points, I had even felt hopeless and a failure to my community. I questioned even my physical appearance, intelligence, and most of all, potential. I had set high standards for myself, but as I kept looking at the news, every year it was getting harder for people from my ethnic or racial background to get into an Ivy League college. My goals are high, and I couldn't even catch up to them. As I reached higher, the staircase to success would even get longer. Not only do I face these struggles and insecurities, but so do many people with the same ethnic backgrounds. If it had not been for the programs and organizations I was involved in, where I really got to firsthand contribute to my community and extracurriculars, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. Through these programs, I had met a lot of people with the same story, if not fairly similar. I have gratitude to organizations like Project 351, Mayor's Youth Council, and Upward Bound that were introduced to me from a guidance counselor at my middle school. It really opened my social barrier and power and courage to unite, act, and lead, contributing to other groups. I met people whose parents had sacrificed everything for their child's pathway to success, and the monster of failure had a huge weight on their shoulders as well. Today, I stand as a proud leader and representative of Fall River Public Schools from the class of 2018 of Project 351. For my low self-esteem, I participated in a strong young women's group that me and about 6 friends initiated with a guidance counselor, which had increased and expanded throughout the year and is still expanding to this day, promoting mental health awareness and positivity of women of any kind of background. Something that had severely contributed to who I am now and is part of me is my passion for performing arts. Being a student in orchestra, chorus, theater, and dance, inside and outside of school, I had finally come to the realization of who I am and to make my fair share on impacting my community. Developing a passion is essential to a path of success and self-realization, and not a lot of youth get to experience that as much as I'd like. My love for serving in my community had truly flourished and really opened to opportunities that I would never thought I would have been part of. Promoting programs like these have changed my life and could change so many young teens' lives for the better. The power of motivation through programs and support can lead students in our youth of a dark path into a better one, and into a better and brighter future. Starting and becoming part of my programs like these had been one of the proudest achievements I speak of today, because not only did I help myself, but most importantly, I got to help our youth. What helped me was the ability to learn about myself, understand the way I put unneeded pressure on myself, and how I best could get out of my head and help others. This compassion and action became the way I learned to cope with helping myself and gave me the ability to overcome my own obstacles. These programs do not exist without the support of funding and the support of you, the people in power. Our youth is not only the future of Fall River, but the future of our world. As all of us grow and go our separate ways, we will never forget where we came from and the toll our upbringing and childhood might have taken our ability to move forward. We need to develop a great foundation, leading by example, to be excellent scholars and professionals for our future. Recognition of our own strengths and weaknesses and the ability to reach out for help through communication is only the first step of courage. Through action and finding ways to support youth, helping youth work to support each other, and giving us opportunities to grow strong and confident, we can make something great for the youth of Fall River. Youth are an essential asset in our community. We need your support on all the issues: domestic violence, bullying, self-esteem, pressure, mental awareness. All of these things have an impact on us, and you can help us by listening, taking our advice, and putting in place the supports we need in school and informal education settings to give us the future we deserve. Youth have a voice, and it should not be silenced, because one day we will be those taking your place in that chair, with the motivation to empower and improve our city, Fall River for the best, through our generation and youth for years to come. Thank you.
So Soleil touched on a lot of different issues that our kids are dealing with. So what I have before me are some statistics that came off of the most recent Youth Risk Behavior Survey. The YRBS monitors 6 categories of health-related behaviors that contribute to the leading causes of death and disability among youth and adults, including behaviors that contribute to unintentional injuries and violence, sexual behaviors related to unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV infection, alcohol and other drug use, tobacco use, unhealthy dietary behaviors, inadequate physical activity, And the YRBS also measures the prevalence of obesity and asthma and other health-related behaviors, plus sexual identity and sexual contacts and sexual involvement. The YRBS includes a national school-based survey conducted by the Centers for Disease Control. These are done throughout the country, and I have the results here of what happened at Durfee High School. During the past 12 months, students were asked, how many times were you in a physical fight? 10% said 1 time, 8% said 2 or 3 times, and 5% said 4 or more times. 12% reported being forced into sexual situations or intercourse against their will. 14% had been bullied on school property within the past 12 months. 15% had been bullied by electronic media. 42.9% of our kids feel sad or hopeless almost every day while doing normal activities. 16% seriously considered suicide. 11% made a plan. 8% actually attempted suicide, with 6% attempting multiple times. 35% of our kids have electronically vaped. 49% has had their first drink, more than a few sips. 14% had that drink between 15 and 16 years old. 12% had it at 13 to 14 years old. 6% had it at 11 to 12 years old. 3% had it at 9 to 10 years old. And 4% had it at 8 years old or younger. 20% have had a drink in the past 30 days, while 13% have had a drink in the past 2 days. 10% have taken prescription pain drugs without having a prescription. 8% have sniffed glue or aerosol cans, and 17% have been offered or have sold or bought drugs on school property. We'll have some more stats as we move on. You all have a card in your hand, all the candidates, and at the end of the presentations, we're going to give each one of you 1 minute. That's what this is for, and I'm really tough, so we're going to hit the buzzer. And you'll have 1 minute to come up and address the youth and tell them what your plan is for the future of Fall River. So we're going to move to Jelani, and then we'll come back to Jahid.
Good evening, everyone. I hope your day is going good. I'm Jelani Palacio, a junior at Diamond Regional. I struggle with mental health issues. I have my whole life. Living with mental health issues is not easy, especially when there's a big stigma against it. Mental health is a serious issue that a lot of teens struggle with. I didn't really know I had mental health issues until I was in middle school. By then, most of my teachers and administrators had given up on me. In the back of my head, I always knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to be one of those people with the jackets that you couldn't move your arms in like you see in the movies. When I did talk to someone about it, the struggles I dealt with, it took a while for me to get the help that I needed because of the lack of mental health professionals in the city. I had to almost wait a year before being matched with a psychiatrist. Honestly, I wouldn't be the person I am today without Mrs. Stasio and Mrs. Hetzler. They both taught me ways to cope with my issues and different ways to look at life. They both helped me when I was spiraling down. I also want to give a big thanks to Jose Edwards. I was fortunate to have him in my life. He always kept it real with me. He didn't sugarcoat anything. That year that I had him was the only year I had a father figure, and I'm grateful for that. We need more mental health professionals and services available for the youth. It takes courage to recognize that you need mental health support. Think for a moment what it would be like to finally understand that you need mental health support and then discover that there wasn't enough services to help you. Lots of youth suffer with these issues. Some are genetic, some because of horrible home situations, and many because of trauma. We live in a world where there are so many pressures and problems that sometimes we need help just navigating. We need mental health prevention support, more places to hang like Boys and Girls Club, the Y, CD Rec with caring adults, and we need teachers that know how to identify and treat or refer students for mental health support. You have the power to make this happen through increased funding for mental health services in schools and more funding for safe places for youth. Don't make one more child have to wait a minute, let alone a year, to get the services he or she needs. Thank you.
So candidates, on the cards that you have, if you have a question for one of the students, you can jot it down, and after they all speak, we'll read some of those questions and ask the students to answer them. So feel free to take notes as we're moving forward. Okay, Haley?
Hi, my name is Haley Paradise. I'm 18 years old. I'm a senior at BMC Durfee High School. Growing up with a broken family was never easy for me. I grew up with an absent mother who I still don't see often. My mom disappeared for several years of my life while I was a younger child, and it left me feeling confused while I was growing up without her. I got my first therapist at the age of 5 due to the fact that I had no clue who my mother actually was and where she had been most of my life. My mother then came back into my life during my later elementary school years, but she never really took the time to see my brother and I. Both my parents faced substance abuse problems before the birth of my brother and I. I currently live with my 2 grandparents and my father, but my father has also been mentally disabled my whole life. He faces illnesses like severe depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. If it wasn't for my grandparents taking my brother and I under their care when I was 1, I don't know where I would be in life today. I would not have a house over my head, food in my stomach, clothes on my back, or a strong support system for my education if it wasn't for them. My grandparents sacrificed everything just so they could give my brother and I the love and support we weren't able to receive from our parents while growing up. Although I've worked hard in high school for myself, I also worked hard for my grandparents to show them how thankful I am for them not only saving my life, but giving my brother and I the lives we never thought we would be able to have. Although I face the obstacles of wondering what is going to happen the next time I see my mother after almost 3 years, or what type of mental state my father is at every day, I still found a way to keep myself motivated in school and in my life. Both my parents barely graduated high school, so I made sure I kept up with my academics my whole life. I used all the pain I was experiencing from my parents my whole life and the support from my grandparents as my motivation to give myself a better life in the future. I made sure I always had honor roll during my high school years to prove to myself that I need to keep pushing myself so I can end up where I want to be in life in my future. School is my distraction from everything that surrounds me. As soon as I get home from work and school, I go straight into my bedroom and I start working on all my homework and studies. The Boys and Girls Club of Fall River has made a huge impact on my life. Not only did I receive a job opportunity there, but I also discovered a passion I have, which is working with children. With this being my senior year of high school, I did not know what type of career approach I wanted to take. I was back and forth between many majors like nursing, teaching, engineering, and social working. Due to my contributions at the Boys and Girls Club for almost 2 years now, I've realized that I have helped make a positive impact on children's lives who have come from several different backgrounds. I enjoy brightening up the Children's Day, and I have decided that I wanted to further my education and go to college for social working. I want to be able to mentor and inspire children to better our community in the future generations. Due to my strong academic skills, I've received a lot of opportunities that have helped create a positive impact on my life, like being in the National Honor Society for Durfee High School and being a part of the Keystone program for the Boys and Girls Club of Fall River. I started to receive all of these opportunities during my junior year of high school, and they have helped me realize that hard work definitely does not go unnoticed. Before being a part of these clubs, I felt like I was not involved in my school and even in my community. Within the past year, I've done over 50 hours of community service, and I've realized that it is something that I truly enjoy doing. I enjoy giving back to the community that I live in to help create a better image and a stronger future for the city of Fall River. Growing up in a city like Fall River isn't always easy. Children live in areas that are full of crime and more. I feel like it's important for the city to have more positive things available for the children of the city to get involved in, whether it's new clubs for children to join around the city, or new programs from the schools, or new things to do around the city like a bowling place or a mall, in order to see a more positive change and a promising future for the city and the reputation of Fall River, to keep children off the streets and to keep crime away from the youth. I've volunteered at several events that have involved children, and a few weeks ago, I volunteered at the Children's Palooza in Fall River, and it made me realize that the city should throw more events like this for the youth in our city. The youth is our future, and I feel like it's important for them to have a way to express themselves and to speak their voices more often. Thank you.
So back to the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. 36% of our high school kids have had sex, 9.4% at 11 years old or younger, 8% have had sex more than 6 times with multiple partners, 17% had sex without using a condom, and 14% have been tested for HIV, and 16% have been tested for chlamydia or gonorrhea. 32% of our kids perceive themselves as overweight or very overweight. 41% drink soda at least 4 times daily. 60% watch TV more than 2 hours daily, and 25% play video or computer games 5 hours or more a day. 10% get 4 hours or less of sleep. 16% get 5 hours, 23 get 6 hours, 26 get 7 hours. It's recommended that high school kids get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Now, you hear a lot about today's teenagers, and we hear that they're self-absorbed, mainly because of selfies. And we hear things about modern youth, they wouldn't know manners if they fell over them. But while all these headlines might be based on facts, they also ignore other important facts. And that's that today's teenagers are the most community-minded generation in 100 years. And we'll turn now to Shahid. You ready?
Good evening. My name is Shahid Workman. I'm 15 years old. I'm a sophomore at Resiliency Prep Academy. This evening, I'd like to share my story with you all. I have been a Fall River resident for the majority of my life. I have grown up in the Fall River housing development system, where I currently reside at Benny Costa Housing Development. While residing in the projects, there are multiple opportunities for me to get involved with negativity. There is a likelihood to get bullied, live in poverty, sell drugs, and get into trouble, etc. While enrolled in elementary school and middle school, my behaviors was atrocious. I was angry because I was consistently bullied. This led me to get into fights, swearing, bringing weapons into school, demonstrating physical behaviors, and being disrespectful. This behavior lasted from 3rd grade up to 6th grade. Needless to say, my parents was less than happy with my behavior and attitude. My parents then sought out services for me to get a mentor through Family Services Association. I had a mentor for roughly 1 year. This was helpful and helped me realizing that I needed to make some positive changes. Before I knew it, I found myself enrolled in 7th grade in the middle school at RPA. I felt lost but a bit overwhelmed. There were other students similar to me as far as behavior-wise. However, the staff and teachers who were in my best interest. Teachers like Miss Garcia and Miss Ferguson helped me achieve success in academically and mentally. After 2 years at RPA, I found myself in an excellent position to be successful in the classroom, and I was able to earn A's and B's on my report card. During my freshman year in RPA High School, I was able to connect with Joe from Recorrection Youth Outreach Program. He was always come by the school and talk with other students, so out of curiosity, I approached Joe and asked him who he was. Joe explained who he was and what programs he worked for. I immediately wanted to join the Shannon program, as I felt it would help me stay on a positive track. Joe told me all the services I could connect to, He said he could help me get a job, help me with counseling if I needed it, and could be additional support at school. Joe came into my school, called me on a daily basis. He also helped me get a summer job where I worked at Housing Authority at Sunset Hill. Joe visited me at the work site weekly and always made sure I was good. I have been able to connect with positive people and programs thanks to Shannon program. I feel like if I didn't take part in these services, there would have been a chance I have felt victim to negative behavior and associated with negative people. Being involved with Shannon gave me the courage to make changes in my life, put me on a path to success. What made the difference for me was first understanding that I needed to change. That's the hardest thing, recognizing that you have to take responsibility for your actions and step up. Then came the support of caring adults and the chance to connect resources and programs that understood my struggle and challenges and worked with me to help my life better. For that, I'm truly grateful. All youth should have this opportunity to have a good relationship with at least one caring adult that would spend their time, energy helping to direct them to support that they need to success and listen to them and help guide them. I would recommend any Shannon program to any youth who is struggling and needs help, most likely want to change their life. We need more adults who will help us and more programs like Shannon. I have gained confidence in myself and feel like I can achieve anything I want for myself. I have a vision to be a positive and productive citizen in my community.
Thank you. So, we know that this generation is the most community-minded generation in 100 years. Studying trends and data over the last century has showed us that 52% of today's teens place a great emphasis on feeling a duty to be an active citizen, compared with just 43% of baby boomers. What's more, this group is most likely to support a cause they believe in, 72% of them. 33% have already raised money for charity, and 26% have volunteered in their local area. 89.5% of our teens report enjoying school. 64.5% of teens say that a teacher has negatively impacted on them, but 98% say a teacher has positively impacted on them. 90% of teens think that their teachers care about teaching students well, and 82% of teenagers think that their teachers deserve more recognition for what they're doing in the classroom. 85% of students think that their teachers enjoy teaching. 95% of our teens have felt inferior at some point in their lives. The main reasons students said are 59% appearance, 49% ability in some activity, 38% intelligence, 35% size, 21% age, 13% race, 13% gender, 12% family economic status, 6% religion, 6% sexual orientation. 84% of our teens have felt superior to another person. 41% of students have purposely tried to make another person feel inferior. When asked why they think people try to make someone feel inferior, this is what they say. 50% says because of low self-esteem or insecurity. 32% say they like to feel powerful. 10% say peer pressure. 7% say because they dislike the person. 54% of our students report high self-esteem, and 45.5% of teens who say they normally have low self-esteem. 61% of teens volunteer to help others during the holiday season, collecting and delivering donations for those less fortunate, sheltering, helping to feed people, spending the time working at nonprofits. 35% of teens watch TV news at least once per week, while 35% state they rarely or never watch the news. In 1972, when the voting age became 18, 55% of 18 to 29-year-olds voted. In 2016, only 43% of 18 to 29-year-olds voted. Duke University interviewed 250 18 to 21-year-old students this year. 42% reported that they did not know how to register to vote. 61 reported that they didn't understand the voting process, especially the Electoral College. 40% of those students that didn't understand the voting process said they had minimal or no civics classes in high school. 31% chose not to vote because they think the system is corrupt and beyond fixing. And 74% believe that all politicians are somewhat or very dishonest. 29% felt that their vote really mattered. Dorothy? No, I'm sorry, Dakota next.
Yeah.
Dakota,
All right.
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Dakota Patton. I am a junior at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School. I am originally from a small town in Minnesota. I grew up with my mom, my stepdad, and a sister, but when I was 8, my mom and stepdad got divorced. After they got divorced, my mom decided we were going to move to Massachusetts because my mom is from Fall River. We moved to Fall River when I was 10. The move was rough for me because I was moving away from my dad, my dad's family, all my friends, and my home. When I got to Fall River, it was nothing like I thought it would be. When we moved here, we barely had any money. My mom couldn't find a job and we were struggling. But when she got a job, we still struggled because she was getting paid minimum wage. My mom started dating this guy shortly after we moved here. At first, he was nice, but after a while, things got rough. My sister and I found out he was a drug addict and he was not a good guy. He would cheat on my mom all the time and they were fighting all the time. After a year of being together, they got engaged. At this point, both my sister and I were very depressed. In fact, my sister was always in and out of the hospital due to her mental health issues. Just shortly after being engaged, my mom found out he was cheating again. When she found out, they started fighting right away, except for this time it turned into a physical fight between my mom, her boyfriend, and my sister. After that, DCF got involved, and my mom put my sister into a home. My sister lived in that home for about a month. During this time period, I was so depressed because at this point, my sister was like my mom in my eyes because my real mom was caught in a bad cycle with her boyfriend. Although she ended her relationship after that physical altercation, I still wasn't hopeful because she always took him back. About 2 weeks after my sister got back home, we found out my mom was seeing him again. My sister and I were disappointed in my mom, even though we loved her so much. At this time, I was attending Morton Middle School, and usually I was an A and B student, but while all this stuff was happening at home, I was terrible at school. I would act out in class, I was always in the office, my grades weren't good, and I had no motivation. Finally, after 2 years of my mom dating that guy, they ended. My mom got a restraining order, and it was over. He continued to threaten us, but my mom, sister, and I were also happy it was finally over. Because of the craziness at home, I had no motivation. I was not a model student. I was in trouble a lot, but despite my behavior, I was given a lot of support and attention from my teachers, Officer Deb, the former SRO, and the guidance counselors. Even though I was still getting in trouble, they reached out to me, were my role models, and gave me a lot of personal attention. If Officer Deb saw me in the office getting in trouble, one look from her and I knew she was disappointed with me, and that made me disappointed with myself. Little things like that would push me to do better. There came a time where I knew I needed to make changes. I wanted to go to Diamond, and I needed better grades, better attendance, and appropriate behavior. I asked to be put in honors class my 8th grade year so I'd be separated from all the people who would easily distract me and induce me to get in trouble. It took courage to move away from the normal and try and to be a different kind of person and student. After being put in honors classes, I turned my life around. I was getting good grades and staying away from trouble. I wouldn't have been able to do without the teachers, guidance, and Officer Deb at Morton. I wasn't the only one who turned my life around. My mom got a great job making almost $40 an hour. She got us a house, and we got our relationship back to the way it was before. I'd like to thank my mother for doing everything she possibly can for me, my sister, my nephew, and my niece, no matter what. I'm not the only kid who has struggled with these issues at home. Substance abuse, mental health issues, and low income are big problems in our community, and we need to focus on them. We also need more after-school activities, more therapists and counselors for people to talk to. Although more school counselors and mental health counselors might not have prevented the domestic violence and mental health issues in my family, it would have given me and my sister better support skills to get through it. We shouldn't have to muddle through these serious issues because there aren't enough of these services or space for these services in schools. You can change that. You should change that. Thank you.
So right now, the Fall River Public Schools is engaged in a social emotional learning curriculum, and we are in the pillar of courage. And I very rarely see the kind of courage that was displayed here. So please give these students another round of applause. Christian will come by and he'll pick up your questions if you have any questions. I heard some things that were in common with all the kids that spoke today. I heard first off that they're dealing with really serious problems, that these are just not, they don't have basketball hoops in the park. There's mental health issues, there's sexual assault issues, bullying, violence, poverty, all kinds of things. But what I heard over and over again is where youth found success was when they had a caring adult, when they had somebody that they could turn to, and when they had a safe space to go to. So as we continue on, please think of that as you prepare your statement. And let's see what questions. Oh, we only have a few. Okay. So this is for everybody. Okay. If there was only one thing you can ask for, what would be the most important thing that an adult or an elected official can do for you? Want to start, Dakota? Go ahead.
All right. So, obviously, like we just said, we all had a supportive adult that helped us get through all the struggles we had with substance abuse in our families, mental health issues, low income. So obviously support is a big thing we need from adults. Growing up in Fall River and living in Fall River, I did have a lot of adults that supported me, but there were also some that were not very supportive. So I think we need more supportive adults, and I think we need more places we can go and we can get our mind off of things that may be happening at home and stuff like that. So.
Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Go ahead.
Personally, I believe that Fall River needs more community service-based events for children to get involved in. I feel like high schoolers shouldn't be the main focus for volunteering. I feel like elementary school kids can volunteer, middle school kids can volunteer, high school kids, pretty much anyone can volunteer. But I feel like there needs to be more community-based events focused on the youth of the city so it can be a more positive thing for the youth to get more involved in, because there's not that much for the youth to get involved in around the city. There's not places for kids to really hang out that much besides YMCA and Boys and Girls Club, and I feel like there needs to be more outside of school activities for children to get involved in that could keep them away from trouble.
Let's.
Um,
Jelani first, then Jahid.
I think we need more like safe spaces, places to play ball, football, sports, stuff like that, sports events, and also like just equality. Like our skin color shouldn't, or ethnicity or any of that shouldn't say that we don't get these type of services when someone else would. Everyone should be able to get the same type of services and be treated the same.
Shahid?
Yeah, pause, you know what I'm saying?
Hello? All right. See, when I was helping Henry Lord Community School with their basketball team, there was a couple of kids that always said that, I can't. So I used to pull them to the side and say, you can. I never want to hear I can't. So instead of saying that you can't help someone, go out your own way and help someone, even if it's the littlest thing. That's all I have to say.
Soleil?
Definitely like inflicting like really good like organizations. Like for example, in my middle school, I got introduced to Project 351, which was a nonprofit organization in Boston, which I never would have thought that I would have been part of an organization such like that, and like finding a safe place to be part of, and not only that, but effectively like promoting it, because there are many like things or like community service events that sometimes I don't hear of, because promoting them is like really difficult and not a lot of people like get to hear them. Even if they're present, some people don't hear about it, and like what's the point if it's not there? So definitely like effective promoting would be something that would make it better.
Thank you, Soleil. Dakota, did you want to say something else? Go ahead.
All right, so when I was going through these rough times at home, another thing that kept me happy and it helped distract me was I did track at Morton, and even going to the practices after school helped me. It got me away from my home situation. I had friends, the coach, I had a bond with the coach, and I know in Fall River we have low funding for school sports right now, so I think stuff like after school activities, sports are very important for the kids in our community and just to keep them away from trouble and stuff. So, yeah.
Thank you. So one of the candidates would like to know, what do you want to do when you get older? What are your future plans? Anybody want to weigh in on that? Go ahead, Soleil.
So in the future, I obviously plan to go to college. I want to do computer science. I want to double major in computer science and performing arts because, as I mentioned in my speech, I do have a big passion for performing arts. I've been performing since I was 5, and I still want to continue that in my life, and I want to eventually get a PhD in computer science.
Dope.
Took my job.
Shahid?
Oh, my fault. To be honest, I obviously want to go to college, and obviously like playing basketball, but that wouldn't be my major. I'll probably say entrepreneuring, or it'd rather be computer tech, because I'm very smart at programming lots of things. So as RPA's 3D printer. So yeah.
That sounds great. Jelani?
I like really like just think about it. Like all my life, I've been like making people laugh, entertaining people. Like I wouldn't mind being like a comedian, like the next like Kevin Hart. You know what I'm saying? Like I could, you know what I'm saying? I could just be a little funny. But like if like that doesn't work out, I would like want to be like someone that like helps my community, like that helps the next generation have a better future. You know what I'm saying? Be one of those people, or just like go to Mars and then like just chill. You know what I'm saying?
Haley?
So I've changed my career approach about 5 or 6 times, and I'm actually in the process of applying to colleges right now, and I finally decided that I want to major in social working, and I'm trying to get into Bridgewater for next fall.
And Dakota?
Great. So obviously I go to Diamond. So I am currently in the carpentry and cabinet making shop, and I would love to go into that trade, but at the same time, I love doing the community stuff. Like right now, I work for Citizens Family Planning, and I love doing community stuff, so I'm kind of in the middle of going to college and doing social work, stuff like that, same as Haley, or going into the trades, because obviously we need more women in our trades, so I'm still kind of indecisive on that one. So.
And I do want to remind you all that no matter what your career plans are, you still can be community involved. Even if you're a carpenter or a technician or a PhD, you still can be community involved. Go ahead.
What can I do on Mars that will help my community? That's what I want to know.
Okay, let's try another. What programs would you like to see that don't exist in your schools? What would you like to see in your schools that don't exist now?
Probably a protection program, because
Say again, I'm sorry.
A protection program?
A protection program? Can you
Yeah.
explain what that is?
All right, so it's like a program that helps kids like learn how to defend themselves, because there's a lot of kids that get bullied, and it happens to everyone at least one point in time. So I feel like if they had enough protection, like if they knew what they was doing and there was someone that actually taught them how to defend themselves, things would be like this, like Fall River would be like more smoothly, like there'd be less going on in violence.
Okay. Soleil, did you want to say something?
Something I was thinking of was programs, but specifying in mental awareness. I did say something about in my middle school how me and about 6 friends did start a mental awareness kind of campaign for like strong, like young women's group. And not only for like women, but for like other people as well. Yes, there are guidance counselors who like to help when you're like down and stuff, but it's been proven that if you talk like in a group or when you effectively communicate with someone else, you feel a lot more better like talking to another person that has either experienced the same thing as you, same racial background or like same like age group than like if you were talking to an adult. And I feel like this would definitely like help, especially in high school where it's like where you're most stressed and stuff.
Anyone else? Okay, we're ready?
Oh,
Oh, go ahead, one more, go ahead.
I would like to see like more like personal finances, like classes or stuff like that, because like a lot of people go into like the real world and have no clue what they're doing, because you guys educate us on like math and stuff like that, but doesn't actually teach us things that we would need in the future.
Okay. Go ahead, Dakota.
All right, so before I attended Morton, I did go to Argosy, and we did have financial classes like that. And they were a really big help because Durfee, Diamond, they just have the normal classes, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, and once we get out in the real world, we don't really know how to handle money, taxes, checks, any of that, stuff to do with banks. Like, I'm pretty much clueless still on what to do, so stuff like that. Yeah, so I agree with Jelani, we need a lot more of that stuff in our schools.
Great.
So.
Okay, thank you. Dorothy, are you? So Dorothy's going to do a little close-up, wrap-up for us before we get to the candidates.
Hello. I just wanted to start off by saying I apologize for my abrupt entrance. I just left theater rehearsal to be here because I knew that this was a very important event, and of course I wanted to be a part of it. First off, I would like to start by thanking all of the adults in this room who have taken the time to sit here and listen to some of the most powerful voices in our community, our youth. My name is Dorothy Barros. I am 16 years old, and I am a senior at Durfee High School. I am the current student body president at Durfee, and I serve as one of the student delegates on the school committee. To the youth here tonight, thank you. I myself have struggled with some of the topics you have all spoken about tonight. I am a person who wasn't always upfront about what was happening in my life because I knew that it was hard. It can be very frightening to talk about issues involving the people you love and who sometimes can become your worst enemy, whether it be family, friends, or sometimes even yourself. It takes an immense amount of courage to talk about matters so important and sometimes dark. Every single one of you is a hero tonight. You have spoken on something that I can guarantee someone else has gone through, and you have now opened a discussion that they can feel a part of. Even if they don't take the opportunity to talk about it, they have now realized that they are not alone, and light has started to seep into what may seem like a very dark room in their lives. You have also shown a spotlight on the aspects of Fall River that people often turn away from. People are not blind. They know about the issues residing in our streets, halls, and homes of Fall River. Domestic violence, poverty, racism, bullying, sexual assault, anxiety, and ridiculously high levels of stress, which can lead to mental health issues. Yes, we are children, and some of our issues may be self-inflicted, but it's clear that these problems can result from a buildup of failure in our systems to support us. Environment can be seen as one of, if not the highest factor in influencing a person's mood, behavior, and growth in all aspects. We can see from the stories here tonight that when the environment is healthy, students are able to thrive. All students must have access to mentoring, a healthy learning environment, and resources outside of school that allow them to stay on track even if they're not directly in a classroom. These things contribute to not only strong scholars, but well-rounded individuals who eventually end up contributing to our society. Students want opportunities, which works out great because I know that Fall River can offer it to them. Students want academic support. They want emotional support so they can feel good, maybe even great, walking into their school every day. They want a school to be a safe space for them when home isn't. They want the impact of their school to reach beyond the walls of the classroom. Yes, we are children, and yes, we may be naive in aspects, but we are not always lacking in life experiences. In Fall River, unfortunately, most of the times we wish we could take away some of those life experiences. With this, we ask for the staff and all adults to support our teachers and to teach them to reach out beyond numbers and grammar. We want our activities to be supported better as they push and better our students. We want more open dialogue with the adults making the decisions that affect us. Opportunity. That is what we ask for. A chance that makes a difference greater than one can possibly believe. The youth are the future, but most importantly, they are now. They are here and they ask for your support on their way to success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. So at this point in time, I have the names of all the candidates, hopefully everyone that's in attendance here. We'll pull a name, and then when you reach the podium, I will hit the 1-minute button on the basketball timer, and you have 1 minute to tell the youth what you would like to do. Now, one of the first things I learned when I became a teacher many years ago was that if you were going to talk about kids, you had to talk about them in a way that was not subjective. You couldn't write that Maria was a lovely child on the report card because it wasn't measurable. You could write that Maria knows how to connect to other people. So we hope that when you come up to give your sentence or two, that you think about the concept of being measurable. Marsha Picard, sitting right over here, raise your hand, from Partners for a Healthier Community and a member of the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force as well, will be scribing exactly what you said, and she will send it to you the day after you are elected to remind you of the promise that you made tonight to the youth of Fall River. So without further ado, our first speaker will be Ricky Tiff.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, folks, for addressing the issues and stuff. I love kids. Matter of fact, meet my kids, 2 kids there, Jessica and Alex. One is, Jessica's at Durfee High School, and Alex is at
I'll remind you that you have 60 seconds. Here's the number.
So my goal is, be honest, is one I want to do is create an ambassador for the youth, especially like connect with all the neighborhood associate, so that way we could create a ambassador and then maybe create some youth team lead like basketball and stuff. And also I want to create a Fall River Public School Club, so that way everybody can come and share story and read and use it and stuff. Ooh.
Finish your sentence. Go ahead.
Yes, to share story and read to each other, learn about each other language, and also implement about the awareness of mental issues and stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trot Lee.
My name is Trot Lee. Thank you for having me. Listening to your stories, I value education and how it can help people move them out of poverty. I used to live at Benny Costa, and I also used to live at Sunset Hill down the street when I was a young kid. I currently have my master's degree in social work, and I currently work as a mental health clinician, so I understand how important all this is for everyone. As my promise to you, I have 30 seconds to have my promise to you. I would like to just introduce that I've been a part of the UIA, which is the United Interfaith Action Group. And through that group, I've been able to help advocate for youth and education. Specifically to you, I will advocate for less emphasis on standardized testing in the classroom, life skills, more civic education to learn about how to pay bills and what a tax is and all that. We talked about that at the forum, last forum as well. And also, I would like to just say thank you again for having me because I have a minute left.
Mark Malacon.
I really do. I actually feel more like these young adults than these folks here. So I actually grew up in the north end of Fall River, 8D Rolling Green Drive, and I think that we owe you guys an applause, number one, for having the courage to go up there and tell your story and all the things that you've been through. Myself, I actually am going to run on HAIL. It's honesty, authenticity, integrity, and love. I would like to work with Senator Rodrick to bring the Promise and Cherish Act, which is about $1.5 billion to our urban schools in the Commonwealth. I think we need that money for programs, youth programs, to get the younger children involved, like you guys spoke of earlier, as well as mental health counselors in our schools. Also, I wanted to share with you guys something about myself. I was molested as a youth around the age of 3 or 4 years old. I was fortunate enough to get through that. I've been through cancer. I had 2 children, IVF first try. And you guys can read more about me at some point in time. I applaud you guys. Please reach out to me at any point in time. I'm an open door, open book, and I hope that we can serve you guys the way you deserve. Thank you.
Sean Kadim.
Thank you. And Wendy, thank you for those interesting statistics. I think they shed some new light on issues that are really important to us. To our young leaders and young adults up on stage, I commend you for the courage to tell us about your very personal stories. And as Dorothy had mentioned, you have the most powerful voice in our community, and for all of us sitting here, we listen to you. My commitment is the same commitment that I bring to each and every one of you every single year, and that is to ensure that we have the funding that is needed and appropriate to have the mentors and programs in place to make sure that you have the services that you need. Working with CDA and the Community Development Block Grant to get funding for you, the Shannon Grant, things of that nature. As a city council, that's where we come in. We come in to make sure that there is funding there. While I have 15 seconds, Christian McCluskey, he is always behind the scenes. He never likes to get acknowledged. But Kristen McCluskey works very, very hard to make sure that we have the Shannon Grant in place in Fall River. $381,000 comes into the city of Fall River, which is more than the city of New Bedford, Lawrence, Brockton, Attleboro, and Taunton. So thank you, Christian McCluskey.
And I think from the reaction of the youth, you can see what a caring adult does for kids. Paul Coogan.
Yeah, Mr.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out, all the people here watching and all the kids on the stage. Those stories were great. You did far better than I ever would have done in high school, so I tip my hat to you. In my role on the school committee right now, I'm extremely visible. I'm still in the schools. I go to the middle school sporting events on the weekends, and I am always out and about. If I'm fortunate enough to get elected to mayor, I plan on having a youth liaison to link with kids like this to bring things right back to the 6th floor, not a one-time event, but on a regular basis throughout the year. I think if we strengthen the bonds between the youth, that liaison will be in the schools. At the same time, I'd like to also strengthen the city website and find a place where the schools, Diamond, Connolly, Boys Club events are all linked. So as one of the kids said, they can click a spot and say, what's going on Friday night? Where can we go? What's going on? Make it available to the city. It's not a big cost, but with a little technology and some work, I'm sure we can link up with these kids on a much regular basis. Thank you.
Oh, yay! Cookies! Timothy Cole.
name's Tim Cole. I'm running for City Council. First of all, I want to say that the future is bright because, to echo what Paul said, I can't imagine myself giving a speech like any of you did tonight, and that goes for the other speakers as well. So congratulations. I know my time's running short. So what's my promise? My promise is to empower you. You have better ideas than I've come up with, and I think that you need to be empowered to help make the change. I think that, you know, I've heard mention of a community liaison program, and I think that's great, but we got to make sure that the resources are there to follow up on your ideas and put them into action. I think that we would benefit from seeing community-centered learning. So, you know, how often did you get a chance to get outside of the walls of the classroom to learn about how your community works? You know, as simple as, you know, helping at an elderly home or helping to plant some flowers, you know, as a child. Take that right through high school where you could be volunteering and developing work skills. I had a lot more to say. It's a short period of time, so thanks.
Yeah, honestly.
Kevin Aguiar.
Thank you very much. I do want to echo everyone's sentiments. Great job. You're very courageous, and your words really meant a lot to each and every one of the candidates here. I want to focus on two things. One is 2 years ago, I suggested, and although I'm on the school committee and I don't operate in the city, I think an initiative that I mentioned was trying to get a fund, maybe $100,000, which is not a lot of money when you look at the money we have. Put it into an account and let you, as the youth, come up with the different programs and actually spend that money on things that you believe in. I don't think that happened. I think everyone, when we have an event like this, says that's a great idea, but when it comes time for the budget, we don't do it. So to all the people running for city council or mayor, please consider doing something like that in the future. The other one is in the school department. One young man talked about not getting the services he needs, the mental health that he needs. We need to increase school health centers. We need to increase the availability of doctors so that what that young man said never happens to another student in the city of Fall River. And if I'm elected, I'll work with my colleagues to make sure that doesn't happen. Thank you very much.
Get more people like Michaela. We'll be fine. Michaela Hetzler.
You threw me off because she didn't take the whole talking. So. Steve Camara.
Getting a minute to respond to your incredible comments is a challenge. I've come to these events. I am committed to eliminating prejudice and discrimination in our community and promoting economic, social, and environmental justice. I'm reminded of Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old student from Scandinavian country who is the leader at 16 years old in addressing environmental injustice and the trouble our planet is in. I will continue to work toward prejudice reduction and remind us to overcome sexism. I say shared responsibility, S for sexism, H for heterosexism or homophobia, A for ageism against children and seniors, R for racism, religious-based prejudice, E for ethnic or educational or economic status prejudice, and finally D for disability prejudice, both mental disability as well as physical disability. I ask you to remember that word, shared responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Larrabee.
Yeah, Mimi! Yeah!
Guess I don't have to introduce myself. So this is a little different. I'm also a member of the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force, and I'm usually on the other side with these fine folks back there. We already mentioned Christian, but everybody else that puts everything into this event, it's my favorite every time there's an election year. So kudos to you guys. You're amazing. I know how hard it is because I usually work with the youth, but excellent. My promise to you, you've all touched on the caring adult. My promise is I'm going to do my best to bring the community to you. I'm going to bring it to the school department. If I am elected, I am going to die trying to bring the community, to get them all in. We absolutely have an amazing community. We're already doing so many good things, but we have to challenge our community to help our schools. Thank you.
Yeah!
Joshua Hetzler.
Yeah, Joshua!
Okay, my name's Joshua Hetzler. Thank you very much for having the courage to tell your story. Sadly, I can relate to many of those stories, and I'm hoping that by working together, we can help change Fall River for the better and help out the next generation of people in Fall River. 2 years ago, I stood up here and I promised that I would raise money for youth service organizations in Fall River, and I'm happy to say we've done that 2 years in a row. We're about to do our third fundraiser to raise money for organizations here in Fall River. I've advocated, well, I understand the importance of social emotional learning. I've advocated for more adjustment councils, and I'll continue to do so. Please do me a favor and invite me to attend your events. Right? I want to go there. I want to work with you. I want to hear your voices. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what I can do to help. You know, by working side by side, I think we can maybe come to some, you know, agreements and change some things here in Fall River for the better and provide you with what you need. I'd also like to, well, we talked about not having civics, economics, first aid, some of those basic things that you need to learn in order to move forward in life, and we're going to advocate for some of those things on the school side. But I'd also like to offer every one of you on stage free CPR AED training. Just let me know, reach out to me, Narcan, whatever you want to learn, I offer to teach you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mark Costa.
So good evening and thank you. About 10 years ago, myself and Linda Pereira had the honor of serving as that adult for all of you when the city created the first in the Commonwealth Youth Bill of Rights. Number 4 in that was access and affordable health care. I think it's time we revise that now and include mental health services, okay? Part of that was part of the youth bill was to give you more access to your local government. I'm proud to say the school committee has 2 liaisons who have a voice at the table at all of our meetings. So feel free to reach out to them so that we understand your needs. Going forward, I agree with Mr. Aguiar. Mental health services is certainly something we can work on in the school district. Just this year, working with Samaya Udin, we created, or she actually suggested, and I believe we implemented professional development for all our teachers to identify students with trauma and mental health issues. We need to take that a step further. We need to get these clinics and these professionals into schools so they're accessible to you, so you don't have to worry about being on wait lists in order to get the services that you all need. Congratulations and thank all of you.
Timothy McCoy.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank our panelists tonight, Wendy, Christian, also for putting this together. You know, I wish I could say to you, you know, join the club as if it was a positive thing to join. I'm a product of counseling at 12 years old. 12 years old. Didn't want to go to school anymore. Self-esteem issues, could feel alone in a crowded room. And a guy by the name of Dr. Palumbo in this city arguably saved my life. It's an ongoing thing. I was back in counseling at 17 years old, so there's never a total cure. So I commend what you're doing today. I was a partner and a collaborator on several organizations and several activities when I was a school committee person. I wrote them down here, just jotting down a few things. The Youth Bill of Rights that Mr. Costa mentioned, Youth Court, Katie Brown, Mentoring and Smiles, Bold Coalition, student government representatives at school committee meetings. I can't tell you how important your activism is. Because again, as it was said earlier, you give us ideas that we could never imagine. On this stage about a week and a half ago, I suggested taking the longest academic month of the year, March, closing the books, and let's work on educating not just the whole child, the whole student, the whole person. Let's have a mental health day where we have teachers in workshops, students in workshops, and their families in workshops. Let's get organizations like Project Purple, Butler Hospital, STAR to come in and give everybody a day off and get away from the stress of the Massachusetts standardized testing. I think we all could use the break. Thank you.
You said it. No, MCAS, that's gas.
Thomas Corey.
Nope.
Yeah, Thomas.
I just want to thank everybody, the audience, Fred TV, and Youth Violence Prevention Task Force. Hey kids, I'm on the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force on its steering committee. I feel you. I hear you loud and clear. My pledge is to be with you. You rock. I will always listen, always, to your concerns. I heard today financial services, curriculum in school. I'll work on that on my school committee position. And Shahid, you moved me. When you said protection, when you talked about a protection program, I did that already with Peaceful Coalition many years ago at Durfee High School. That's a continuation of what we were doing. I pledge to bring it back. I will be listening to you, Shahid, straight on up.
Yeah.
Right on.
Good job, man.
He brought tears to my eyes, tears to my eyes.
Yeah, I know. Linda Pereira.
I hope so.
Thank you to everyone. I'd like to say that I'm shocked by some of the stories that you shared with us, but I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because I worked for the Department of Social Services for 20 plus years as an investigator and worked at the district attorney's office as an investigator. So domestic violence, sexual abuse, human trafficking, those were all things that I worked on. The young lady that has left the stage, oh, you're over there. When you talk about being raised by grandma, do you know that if you were in a foster home, your grandmother, you would get a clothing allowance, but with your grandparents, you wouldn't. I and a couple of foster parents fought for that, so that grandparents who are raising their grandchildren now get paid. This is my pledge. I want to create activities for youth in our parks, have dances, but the one thing I want to do is a Fall Rivers Got Talent. You can do stand-up comedy, and a car will be the prize.
Rebecca Collins.
Thank you. I'm Rebecca Collins. I want to, again, thank you guys for the courage that you had to speak your truth, and thank your guardians and your parents for giving you the opportunity to stand up and say your truth. This was not something that happened in the 80s and 90s when I was in school. Like I like to say, in the Highlands, it's not that we didn't have problems, we just had bigger closets to hide all of our problems in. I think my pledge to you would be to give the opportunity over the summer. I think we forget about a lot of the teenagers and the preteens that we can't get PACE vouchers for and send them to camp. So I think workshops, social emotional workshops, and peer groups to give you guys the opportunity to tell your truth to each other, so you understand. Most of us didn't realize until we went away to college that everybody else had the problems that we had. And then life skills. I think you need to learn how to change a tire. I don't know how to, but I will attend that workshop. But cooking and financial stability, I think it's important. So thank you.
Paul Hart.
Thank you very much for having me here, Wendy and Christian out in the crowd. The crowd welcome you here tonight, and also the folks watching, and proud to be part of this venue. I'm very proud of what all of you said tonight. I'm very sympathetic, and also too, I think that what you've done tonight and being on the stage, you've shown a lot of courage, and I really, really thank you for that, and God bless you for that. The other thing I want to tell you and promise you is that on all these programs that you're part of, I will promise you that I will do all I can to be and help you and encourage you and continue to be part of these programs. And also, I like to play to my strengths, and my strength is basketball. My strength is organizing events. So if I'm fortunate enough to get elected, I will organize a 3-on-3 summer event for the program, and which could raise some good money for all of you. Thank you very much.
Michelle Dion.
Big difference. I would like to thank everyone that was involved in putting this together, and I'd especially like to thank the panel for sharing with us. The youth definitely are our future. You demonstrated great courage. That is an important quality for future leaders, And I believe each and every one of you have the ability to do that. The City Council, which I've said in the past, has a committee that's youth and youth and elder affairs. I would like to see the youth and the elders, who seem to be two groups that very often are left out of the fray, be brought to the table. You have ideas, you have thoughts, you have emotional needs that need to be brought to the forefront. And I believe the forum in the City Council would be a place where the community could get to know you all better. And my pledge, if I'm elected, is to have a Youth Awareness Day, because not only do you need support, but you need recognition.
Thank you. Christopher Peckham.
Big shout out to Chantel, you know what I'm saying?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I jotted some things on my phone so I wouldn't forget. I hear a common theme in most of your messages: mental health, specifically insecurities and depression. I gave a speech a few weeks ago, and part of that speech was how we need to rebuild Fall River Pride, okay? And the way I proposed that was to build it within our youth, because you guys are what Fall River is going to be in the near future. I stress that the pride of our city starts with our youth, with you. If we want to fix the issues within our community today, we fix it for the long term, not the short term. I'm a huge advocate for sports programs. I was an athlete myself. Sport instills self-confidence, securities, discipline, gives you a path to follow, and I think that's huge in the school system. It's a good outlet for those struggling with mental health issues. My pledge is to look into ways to restore funding to our sports programs and extracurricular activities to give our kids another pathway to a successful, healthy future. Thank you.
Pam Liberté LeBeau.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for sharing your stories. That is not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to talk about something so personal, and public speaking is not an easy thing to do either. So I appreciate all of you being here. There's two things that every one of us can do if we're fortunate to be elected or re-elected. We can listen and we can vote. We can listen to what it is you need. I think Ms. Aguirre had a great point. We need to hear from you what it is that you're looking for. He also mentioned something he pledged 2 years ago was for an amount of funding to be put in for youth support, youth programs. So I don't think that we should wait another 2 years. I don't think we should wait for the next budget. I think I'm going to call Mr. Aguirre tomorrow. Let's get a resolution and let's get that program funded, and let's get that done. Our kids need safe and supportive programs both in and out of school, and let's make that happen.
Cliff Ponte.
Thank you, and I'll also agree with the candidates who are here tonight. Your courage is noteworthy, and thank you for that. So one of the lessons I learned when I first got on the City Council 4 years ago was that we are in a position to advocate. Very similar to what Ms. Dion indicated, the City Council does have the Youth and Elder Affairs Subcommittee. I think it'd be appropriate to kind of mimic what the school committee does and have a voice at the table at the meetings, to get a report from you, to hear what's actually happening at those meetings, and work with the Mayor's Youth Council collectively to have one voice as well. The other thing I want to mention, and I'm going to be advocating for over the next 2 years on the City Council if I'm fortunate enough to get reelected, is supporting our local leagues. Our leagues for a very long time have been having to pay for the lights at the parks. I believe the city should have the ability to pay the lights at all the baseball fields and all the leagues for the schools. Thank you.
So thank you so much for being part of this year's Youth Candidates Forum. I always like to end with some big ending. I used to call this my Phil Donahue ending, but then someone said I was very old and no one knew who Phil Donahue was. But one of my favorite quotes is, If I am not for myself, who am I? But if I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? If I am not for myself, who am I? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? It's in your hands. Thank you.
You better actually do what you said you was gonna do, you know?
Let's go.
Amen, amen.